Today you'll be graphing and writing equations of circles. The standard equation of a circle is the set of all points equidistant, meaning the radius, from the center, and that distance is called the radius. Now if we look at our picture off to the right, notice we have our center, HK, and then we have another point on the circle, XY. If I were to draw the line segment connecting the points h, k, and x, y, we get our radius, r. And to find the length of a line segment in the coordinate plane, remember we're going to use distance formula. So to find our radius, we just use distance formula. We'll take x minus h quantity squared plus y minus k quantity squared, and then we square root it. This is our standard form of a circle, this x minus h quantity squared plus y minus k quantity squared equals r squared, where the center is h and k and the radius is the square root of r squared. This brings us to our first type of problem, where it says we're going to write the equation of the circle with the given center and radius. So all we do, I'm going to identify the -2 as h and the k is 0. So x plus 2 quantity squared plus y minus 0 quantity squared equals 5/2 quantity squared, which is, the same as 2.5. So we simplify it. X plus 2 quantity squared plus y squared equals 25/4. And that's all you got to do. Try the next one. Hopefully you found x minus 3 quantity squared plus y plus 1 quantity squared equals 64. Now we're going to write an equation for each translation and then graph the circle. So the first thing we have is our parent circle, x squared plus y squared equals 16. It is shifted right 3 and down 5. Now remember with circles, it's kind of like with other types of graphs where you notice that the h inside with x is the opposite sign, and so this time the k is as well. So if we're shifted right 3 units, then that means we will have x minus 3, because it's opposite if it's inside, plus shifted down 5, y plus 5 quantity squared, and we're going to have the same center, or radius 16, radius squared. So the next thing we'll do is we'll identify our center and our radius. So our center is located at 3, -5, and our radius is the square root of 16, which in this case is 4. So now what we'll do is we'll plot that center. So we're going to plot the center 3, -5. And our next, we're going to plot 4 units to the right of that center, 4 units down from that center, 4 units left of that center, and 4 units up from that center. I don't ever do diagonally because remember, that's not the same distance, right? It's a longer distance. And then please don't draw me diamonds when you draw me circles. Try to make them as circular as you possibly can. And that's it. And you can try the next one. So hopefully you found a circle with the equation x plus 4 quantity squared plus y minus 2 quantity squared equals 9, and the graph with a center of -4, +2, and a radius of 3. Next type of problem, we're going to actually find the equation of the circle. So the first thing we'll do is we'll identify our center and radius. It looks like our center is at 3, 2, which is our h and our k. And then our radius is 2 units. Okay, so remember we have our x minus h quantity squared plus y minus k quantity squared equals r squared, which is their equation for a circle. So we just plug in hk and square the r. That's it. So x minus 3 quantity squared plus y minus 2 quantity squared, and the square of our radius is just square, which is So if we look at the next type of problem, we're just going to graph it, and it's already written in the form that we like. So the first thing I would do is I would identify the center and radius. So this first example, the center is located at 3, -2, because remember you take opposite signs if they're inside with that variable. And our radius is equal to the square root of 25, which in this case is 5. So now we're ready to go over to our graph. And we're going to graph our center, 3, -2. And we're going to count 5 units right, 5 units up, 5 units to the left, 5 units down. And then we're going to draw our circles the best of our ability. And that's it. I want you to try the next problem. So hopefully you found something of this nature where the center is at -3, +3, and the radius is at 6. We'll have, If we look at the next problem, we're going to write the equation of the circle that passes through the given point and has the center at the origin. And so the point it gives us is 1, -5. So if I know my center is at the origin, then that means 0, 0 is h and k, and that means 1 and -5 is x and y. And we have to find the radius. And remember, to find the radius, we essentially do distance formula. So radius is equal to, or r squared is equal to, we're going to take our 1 minus 0 and square it, plus y, which is -5, minus 0 and square it. So r squared is equal to 1. -5 squared is 25. So r squared is equal to 26. The other thing you can think of this as well, remember we just used our equation for the circle. And then we plugged in x, y, h, k, and we solved for r squared. So now all that's left for us to do is to write our equation of the circle. We'll have x minus 0 quantity squared plus y minus 0 quantity squared equals 26. And if you wanted to write it as x squared plus y squared equals 26, that is okay. Now I want you to try the U-try. Hopefully you find x squared plus y squared equals 52. So we're going to graph the circle, but notice that it's not written in our normal form. We have to find h and k and r squared. And in order to do so, we're going to follow a series of steps. The first thing you'll want to do is you'll want to group the x's together and group the y's together and move the number without a variable to the right-hand side. The 8 is already on the right-hand side, but we should group our x's and y's together. So x squared minus 8x, leave a space, parentheses, plus y squared plus 2y, leave a space, equals 8. If you haven't guessed already, we are going to be completing the square, and we're going to actually do it twice, once for x and then also once for y. So remember, to complete the square, I'm going to take the middle number and divide it by 2 and then square it. This gives us -4 squared, which is 16. Now I'm going to do the same thing for the y's. The middle number is 2. We'll divide it by 2 and then we'll square it. This gives us 1 squared, which is 1. Now, when we write our circle equation, and I'll rewrite it again, now remember, once I complete the square, the reason why I do it is so that I can factor a perfect square trinomial. And if I add 16 with the x's on the left side, I also have to add 16 on the right side. Otherwise, the equation is no longer in balance. We'll do the same thing with the 1 we found for y's. Okay, now remember the next step is to factor. So factors of 16 that add to give me -8 are -4 and -4, or x minus 4 quantity squared. For y's, factors of 1 that add to give me +2, that's +1 and +1, or y plus 1 quantity squared. In the right-hand side, 8 plus 16 plus 1 is 25. Now, also remember, we talked about this, that whatever my middle number divided by 2 before I square it is what it will factor to. So if we look here, this was before we squared it, and this is what it factored to. Okay, now we can recognize that our center is at 4, -1, and our radius is the square root of 25, or at 5. And now we can graph. So the first thing we'll graph is our center for -1. And remember, our radius is 5, so we're going to count 5 units right, 5 units up, 5 units left, and 5 units down from that center point, and draw our circle the best to our ability. Just don't draw me a diamond, please. And that's it. Take a minute and try the example you tried. Ta-da! Here's what you should get. The end.